of divinatory traditions from all over the world in one handy little reference book. I get nothing for promoting this. They sent me a copy really as a courtesy to be like, you know, divination, if I like this. I mean, African basket divination, Mongolian forms of divination, Indian, astrological, Ottoman astrology, Chinese astrology. Like, there's so many different interesting traditions in this book. I'm so glad I have it as a desk reference, and I'm truly just wholeheartedly recommending that if you're into this kind of stuff, it's nice to have as a reference. So I hope you'll support people. I think it's important when people are doing academic work into divination to support them. So anyway, check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. On that note, let us get into the astrology of May. Alexandra and Whitney. Hey, welcome back.
Hello.
Yes. And I also have to say a big thank you for covering for me while I was gone. It was really, really nice to be able to have a little vacation time, and you guys stepped in and just did such a nice job. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and I hope you had a nice restful vacation.
Oh shoot, I lost my audio. Of course. Everything is logically crazy today. Okay, wait. Now I didn't hear anything you said after I mentioned thank you. I didn't hear what you said.
I said a bunch of mean things, but no, I said that I hope you had a good vacay. It's always fun to watch your travels on Instagram and like follow along with you guys. It's fun.
The sun is nice. It's like, and today in Minnesota, you can see it, there's sun coming into my room. I'm like, oh no, that's nice. Thank you.
We're so glad you got a good vacation, and we had fun without you, but we're happy you're back.
Thank you. Well, so what happened today was the platform that I used had some kind of bug where it wasn't sending the authentication code to log in, so we got stuck, which means we're short on time with our childcare schedule over here today. So usually what we do to start, if you're new to the channel, is we tell some stories from the previous night. But to make sure we have plenty of time today to get through everything, given this little tech, it's a Sun Pluto as we're making this, so the power outage of the tech gods came to us. But anyway, we're gonna try.
We've been grabbed.
Yeah. Totally.
Here's our grab story.
Real thing. But anyway, so we're gonna dive right into the astrology for the month of May rather than do our typical recap. But don't worry, there's a lot of ways that talking about this month's astrology is naturally going to be reflecting on what happened last month. So, Alexander, where we start? Alexander did such a nice job of giving us our outlines each month, and Whitney too. But you come up with these clever ways of organizing things. So tell us about the beginning of May.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, I feel like Whitney had a killer way of thinking about the first transit, first 1.5 transits really of the month. That's like some Beltane fires, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what was conjuring in my mind, because we open the month on May 2nd with Venus conjoining Neptune in Aries. All of a sudden, Venus is back in Aries, and she hits Neptune right away. And it's really interesting because this beginning of the month, if we look at a large scope of May, this is more, it feels more April. Like
Way more April.
we were kind of discussing this offline to begin, but it's almost like a bridge into May, or like a shoulder season, we could say. And Alexandra is saying that it's a transit and a half, because we have on May 3rd then Pluto stationing retrograde in Aquarius. So these are both happening very close to one another. And of course, when Venus enters Aries and conjoins Neptune, they're both automatically in a sextile to Pluto. So we'll kind of feel these energies all together. Now, this is happening right after May 1st, or many who celebrate May Day or Beltane. And so what this sort of like romantic fantasy of Venus Neptune is conjuring is like what are the fires of Beltane asking us to start the month with, right? It's like fertility and abundance and the prospect of a sweet vision. And it's like so interesting that Pluto stationing retrograde then happens right in the mix there. And if we take the chart forward just one day to see that, it's kind of wild because the moon is directly opposite Pluto as Pluto stations retrograde. Pluto is still in this slightly wide opposition with Mars there as well. And so this is where sort of that echo of April's astrology comes into play. And I don't know why, but when I look at this, so first of all, I'm like, oh, something with the Pluto-Mars opposition is having, like, Mars is making Pluto think twice, like do like a backspin, right? But with the moon involved, I just can't help but see this mothering figure who, or like a babysitter who's like, Pluto, you need a timeout. Like, you need to go reassess how you're working with this like romantic vision that Venus has, because it's all related, and like figure your shit out. So how's that to open the month?
I love it. Yeah, I think you know, just for people who might have missed last month's astrology or who were not paying as close attention, there was just so many things happening in Aries around that. That there was you know really like March too. Obviously, like March and April carrying over. There's just a lot of things happening in Pisces and Aries, both signs. And then of course the Mars opposition to Pluto sort of came through right at the end of April. It's coming through as we're recording this, in fact. It's funny because this week on Friday, for listeners, there will be Pluto retrograde horoscopes. I don't usually do planet, outer planet retrograde horoscopes. That's like not a thing for me. But the reason that I decided to make it a thing is because this is the first full retrograde that Pluto has done in Aquarius without backing in Capricorn. When you look back, it's also really interesting to note that Pluto's ingresses and retrogrades have revolved around Mars conjunctions and oppositions in almost every case. And so the change of direction for Pluto, not just now, but historically since entering Aquarius, has happened quite closely to Mars contacts. So I thought, this is a big deal. You've got Venus hitting Neptune, and then Pluto turns retrograde, but not back into Capricorn. It's sort of giving us our first full concentrated period of revision or reflection on what it's been doing in that place in our birth charts too. And it's interesting to think about it being connected with Venus and Neptune. I guess my first thought on that, and I want to hear what you guys think too, is just that the catalytic power of 0 degrees, 1 degrees of Aries is just tremendous. Saturn's going to enter later this month onto that 0 degree Aries marker. And to me, the amount of cardinality alongside, coming right off the engagement of Mars and Pluto, is suggesting that there's new things that were implemented. I also like to think about this as, is there a wave of soothing or calming energy coming on the heels of the Mars-Pluto opposition? The Venus Neptune in a fire sign, kind of nicely configured to both Mars and Pluto, feels to me like, maybe it's still pretty fiery, but there's like, it feels like a little, like a sap, if we use that word, right? Like something kind of a cooling or an evening or a harmonizing that could come in after the intensity of the Mars-Pluto opposition. So, and aside from that, you guys know I love date nights around Venus, Neptune, always my favorite. So,
yeah, I think when I was thinking about what you were saying, Whitney, about Beltane, this felt so like lustful and wanting, and it's almost like the crisis of the Mars-Pluto has revealed some want somewhere in our lives. And that kind of tied in, of course, to the bonfires, the sweaty bonfires of May Day. And I was specifically thinking of Walpurgis Night, which is like a German festival that is celebrated around this time, April 30th, May 1st. It's like that spring half point between the equinox and the solstice. And it was kind of a pre-Christian ritual, but later designated in honor of Saint Walpurgis. And it's interesting because in the pre-Christian context, it was quite a pagan festival. And in the Christian context, it was celebrating the saint who was known for being sort of great at battling illness, but also witchcraft. And so that kind of tied in for me this sort of like springtime Halloween vibe that taps into a little bit of the forbidden pull of those Plutonian themes and Pluto stationing, being like, hey, we have this long tradition, and then all of a sudden the tradition sort of gets ripped, but it's sort of about the same thing. And that felt also pretty relevant, that springtime Halloween theme for the full moon in Scorpio, which is happening this month, you know.
What a great segue.
Yeah. I think like Venus to me with Neptune is also sort of, she's coming back from degrees where she was retrograde in Aries, and it makes me wonder about what got started at the beginning of the retrograde that is now coming back into focus somehow. So the whole sign house of Aries for all of us is the place where I would recommend, you know, looking or thinking about in terms of the topics in your life that could be coming back up, going back to the retrograde. When did the retrograde start? Was it early
March 1st?
Yeah, it was like March
Venus.
1st.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Also, you know, like there was a Mercury-Neptune junction right there as well on April 16th, which that, you know, I don't think if I had been thinking about it that if I hadn't thought about it, I don't think I would have noticed what happened to me, but it was such an intense clarity on that day, and I had other kind of clients and friends saying the same, so maybe thinking back about that. And these things happening in early Aries are foreshadowing all of the Saturn-Neptune buildup that's happening from now until February, so they might be important to take note of in that context.
Just while we're on the topic, I'm going to jump around for just 2 seconds and also recommend that people pay attention to right about here on May 13th. You're going to see Venus go across the eclipse degree. And any time you've got stuff cooking on an eclipse degree right after, I've always thought those would be significant little windows. So we're tracking Venus and Aries. Maybe watch around the 14th or so. This will be just after the full moon, which we're going to look at next. But just another.
Untie.
Let's see. Okay. So
sorry about that. I won't burp anymore.
No, it's interesting because in a way, the month from the 2nd until the 12th is kind of quiet. It is a little bit of a lull, relatively speaking. Then we hit a full moon in Scorpio, and I think for me, you know, as someone who's Taurus rising, I always feel like these full moons in Scorpio that come during the springtime are so interesting because I really get to experience the dichotomy between Taurus and Scorpio. It's like a little, like you were just talking about Halloween. I feel like it's like Halloween revisiting in the middle of spring.
Yeah, this one particularly because, you know, the moon and sun both have wider ranges of engagement. So, and even in full sign aspects,
no way.
very much activating that Mars.
No way. Are you serious, Toad? Young Toady, last night? No, I missed it. I slept through it, my friend. Wow, legend. Absolute legend, brother. I'm still learning this mic, man.
It really feels like
I was listening back. I'm going to stand a little further away when I speak into this mic. The other mic responded better. Now I'm improving my levels. I'm trying to.
Especially given on the same day, let me just flash a different label.
Speaking of ASMR, this is my other mic. It's fucked too. They're both fucked, man. I think I might need a screen, a windscreen. I think I have one, but I do have one, but I don't have it connected.
And careful to harmonize with words. Like
how?
Wonderful singing voices, or they're talented musicians.
I missed it. I'm sorry, dude.
In Taurus or a Mercury Venus signature. but this is, Mercury squaring Pluto and then a Scorpio full moon. So I get the feeling like there could be also some,
How do you do
like when you
that
said
in OBS?
the resentments or the grudges are down to the bones. Wouldn't be shocked if we were seeing things.
Bro, my
Two layers in
audio,
here. So
not
one
like
thing would be
levels
rationalize
knowledge.
or trying to
It's
harmonize
fucked.
something or make it appear very rational, but there's a lot of emotion or
Filters.
other motivations
Audio
that are
filters.
maybe
Wow,
less
insane.
overt. That
Yeah.
comes to mind.
Yeah, it feels like almost being surprised by the strength
Noise
of your
suppression? Limiter?
emotion. Sort of like, oh, I didn't
A limiter?
realize that I still was carrying that.
Limiter.
I feel like there's something.
Decibels. There's a decibel
I
threshold.
hesitate to say resolve or
Is
like
that better?
resolution
Yeah.
because it doesn't feel.
I could put
like it has sort of
a
constructive
threshold.
connotation, and it
How's that?
almost
Does that
feels
sound
like
better?
Instead of a catharsis, it's
Oh, Amazon.
hearing something different.
Did I mess up both mics? I might have, man. I put a filter on it. Does it sound better now?
Yeah, I definitely
Or
am
worse?
getting the
I got so much stuff going on. I got the fan going. I got the speaker right here.
The
I got a big ass speaker.
moon is along with this Mercury square Pluto. It's giving me something to the effect of how
Anyways,
the ending informs a
I'm
new
gonna keep this
beginning.
threshold
In astrology,
decibel.
we talk about cycles
Maybe
all the time. So
5.
that could be true in so many ways.
Let's try it. I'm gonna see how it sounds.
Specifically, I'm thinking
Does it sound
about
better or
in
worse?
this way, and I'm so glad
Thanks,
you
man. It's all good.
brought up
I have to do
the
testing with myself off stream,
tension of
honestly.
opposites, this total juxtaposition that's happening while the sun is in Taurus and it's spring and the sun is shining and it's new growth, right? But at the same time, we're getting this full moon with this intense, deep, dark energy, right? And Scorpio is a water sign, so it is so deeply.
Thanks, man. I also got a mic or a fan going. It might be negligible to change. I did a 5 decibel filter. You don't have to do this work for me. Okay, talk. Yeah, so I mean, I put a 5 decibel. I'll change. My bass is too heavy. Filters. Limiter. Let's remove the limiter. Let's delete it. Okay. Compressor, expander, 3-band equalizer. I have a 3-band equalizer. So I'm turning down the lows. How does that sound now? I sound like a subwoofer. That's just my voice, brother. Does it sound better now? I put the lows to 10 decibels. Now they're at minus 20 decibels. That's like maxed out, the lows. Now the lows are back to normal at 0. 5 decibels going down to 10 decibels. 15 decibels to minus 20 decibels. And back to minus 10 and now at 0 decibels. %, too loud. Yeah, I know. So I tried to put a limiter on it. Okay, let me go back to the limiter. Thanks, brother. It's a decibel limiter. So that's like minus 13 decibels. Is that better? I'm not getting any highs from your voice. I don't know, man. I appreciate this help so much. We're at minus 13. Is that any better? Oh, the volume's good now? Okay. The bass is really... Okay. I think I got it. I think I need a limiter and... So minus 13. Okay. So we have the limiter minus 13 and we need the... There's a noise suppression 3-band equalizer. There's an upward compressor. I'm gonna try the 3-band EQ again. So I turned my lows down to like -15. So now I only have mid and high. A sound normalizer. I don't know. I don't think so. I have 3-band equalizer, compressor, expander, gain, invert polarity, limiter, noise gate, noise suppression, upward compressor, VST 2.x plugin. I'm gonna try upward compressor. How's that now? That's with the upward compression. It's got like 6 adjustable things now. Sorry, brother. I don't... Keep talking, okay. What's up, my friend? How are you doing today, my dude? My brother? How does it sound now? I still see it's redlining a little bit. Maybe I gotta turn down the bass is still crazy. I don't know, man. Turn that off and turn the treble off. Treble up. I did, man. My highs are now like 11 decibels and mids are now like 10, 11 decibels. I'm gonna play the podcast again though. Sorry. Sorry, man. I don't know, dude. I think I'm gonna leave. Oh, the limiter. It's fucked now. It's fucked.
Basically, off the eclipse season, actually, as soon as Neptune entered Aries, I've been digging into the decans.
Thanks, man.
Aries is my ninth house, and so we're not surprised that I am digging into new
Fuck me, man.
there, right? Especially around a topic like astrology.
So my limiter is high.
It's really interesting.
I got high limiter
when you
going.
look at this decan in the tarot, this is Venus's decan. It's also
Okay, that's it.
bound.
I got it. This? Okay, so this is just... Okay, this is minus 13 decibel limiter filter.
Fairly benefic area,
Thanks, man.
but
I see it's not redlining anymore.
too much good
Nice.
goes bad,
Yeah,
you know
I
what
see it's not
mean?
redlining.
Like, there's almost a sense of like
Thank you, brother.
debauchery here, I might say, and I'm specifically thinking about
Whatever you did, man. You helped me, dude.
the tarot and Scorpio representing the death card. There's like this sense that in order to bring new life, we first have to, a little bit has to die, right? It's like further I'm trying to articulate my thoughts here because I have like a mycelium exploding in my mind, and I think that that's a really good like representation of what we're talking about because of the depth of Scorpio and the interconnectedness of everything. Everything is working deep under the earth while it looks like, oh, fungus is gross, it looks like it's dying, right? But it's actually eating away at things in order to spur new life. And so I guess that's my little like fired up moment. I think this is the Sun Pluto coming through right now in our recording, but it's like this whole like death spurs new life and the underworkings of the things we've got under the surface.
Yeah, that's good. That was good. I gotta just add in 2 little thoughts about the Uranus conjunction / opposition with the full moon. It's a little broadly proposed, but not too much. And the Sun is going into a conjunction, which we'll talk about next. But I think that when you get a full moon in Scorpio with the contact to Uranus, which we've had these before, there's a feeling of the status quo being shaken up. But the Taurus side of things, there may be like I think of this is a really simple and kind of mundane example, but I think of the shakeup that happens when you decide you're going to repurpose a room in your house, and suddenly that room falls into chaos and disorder, and you don't like to be in it, or it feels messy, or and there's this gestational period. Well, eventually it becomes something nice and Taurian, but there's a kind of creative chaos at play, and maybe even a period of not really, like we were redoing a room in the basement and made it into a music room. I hated being in there while there was like the floor was pulled up, and like just that kind of chaos of the creative process comes to my mind. So maybe that's appropriate for this. But we do have this, I like this title, a mid-month power surge. This comes right off from the full moon in Scorpio. And it really, I think it's probably encapsulated by these two transits, but Alexander, you may have had more in mind. The sun conjoins Uranus, which we were just talking about, on the 17th. On the same day, Mercury will square Mars. And remember that at the full moon, we had Mercury square to Pluto. So effectively bringing together the Mars-Pluto opposition again through its transit. What comes to your mind with respect to these two transits happening on the 17th?
Yeah, like you were saying, I am really connecting this Sun conjoining Uranus moment, or Uranus conjoining, we could call it, as connected to the full moon that we were just talking about, obviously. And I'm glad that you brought that in, because like we have had so many Uranus impacted lunations recently, and I think it speaks to the volume of change that is occurring right now. I mean, even in 2025, just with all of these outer planet ingresses, right? And with Uranus involved, it's like just upping the ante. And so I absolutely agree with you there, and I love this idea of the sort of power surge that this brings. I mean, if I'm going back to my, death spurring new life, then this moment, this sort of Kazemi moment, and then what's happening with Mercury squaring Mars, it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes, right? This is that sort of like change and rebirth moment. That theme, I think, is really, really present throughout a lot of this astrology of May. It's very, very transformational, and this like Mercury Mars is just part of that. Like, I feel like what Mercury is doing here is dissecting and translating the energy that's happening so we can put it into action. And it actually reminds me of what we have gone through in April with the T-square between Sun, Mars, and Pluto, right? So if that was kind of like the visionary transformation, then this is how we're figuring out the details. So I'm really seeing that all connected.
Nice.
What about you, Alexandra?
I'm kind of thinking about, Adam, in your excellent masterclass lecture about temperament, you talk about the archetypal storylines of different slices of the zodiac, and I was thinking a lot about one of those Taurian slices of life, which is the struggle between man and beast in a Taurus environment, and thinking about Venus hitting that Neptune, then coming in through the degrees of that eclipse in Aries, which is in aversion to everything that's happening here in Taurus. And Venus is in a trine to that Mars and Leo that perfects on the 22nd. I just wonder about feeling fast but thinking slow, and the quickness of the beast rising to the surface in ways that we can't see because of the aversion there. And that sort of slowness of Mercury putting pressure on that passion and feeling and desire that's moving a lot faster. I think in a constructive way might refer to this like shift in purpose. And I'm really seeing and feeling that through this Saturn Jupiter square, which doesn't kind of come perfect again until later June, July, I think. But it is within, the degree range of a square at this point still. And so
going into June is going to be like getting a healing, kind of wind of Jupiter gushing through the same space where there might have been some turbulence. So I like the way that everything's turning this month. Even though there's some intensity along the way, it really does feel like a month where we're, for the most part, coming out of the turbulence that was March and April.
totally agree.
Yeah.
Jinx.
I'm excited.
If I didn't have to go like right now, I would love to let you guys chime in on that, but I am so short on time today, unfortunately. So, if my daughters are left alone for very long, bad things happen. So
We don't want that. Go rescue
there is
us.
a huge chocolate stain on my carpet right here that you can't see. That every time I look at,
You get reminded of what the consequences.
yeah, all sorts of really gnarly shit. Like Elmo somehow, I won't even tell you what happened to Elmo. It's gnarly. Anyway.
Put it on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. Let me tell you how to get in touch with Whitney and Alexander. You can find Whitney at astroarcana.com. You can book a reading with her. And you can also find her on Instagram at astro.arcana.astrology. Now, you guys are going to be making some content together. Where can people find that? Because I know people are going to ask me.
Yeah, well, definitely on our Instagram accounts, both
Okay.
of us, and my new YouTube channel, which is 9 Lives Astrology on YouTube. Whitney and I have recorded something awesome about Saturn, Neptune, Venus dynamic, and I am doing a Saturn into Aries, not a theoretical lecture about like what it means, but really grounded in natal astrology, like what it means for you and how you can work with it to harness Saturn's personal transformation superpower. So you can find that on my Instagram and on my website.
That is 9livesastrology.com, and on Instagram it's also 9livesastrology. I am also just really, really glad to point you to Alexander's YouTube channel. It's fantastic. You're killing it. I hope that lots of people subscribe. And Whitney as well, just regularly producing
Sun
amazing content.
square Pluto. Wow.
Whitney.
Yeah,
Well,
totally.
I stay tuned because I may or may not be launching a little something on this very platform this month. So
Good. Yay.
find me on Instagram so you know how to get there.
Very glad for you guys. And it's been a pleasure, as always, to break down the astrology for the month ahead. We will be back together again to break down June's astrology, which will include Uranus into Gemini, Jupiter into Cancer, all sorts of interesting Jupiter-Saturn square, Jupiter-Neptune square. Crazy month of June, really fun. I think it's going to be really interesting month ahead, for sure, and June gets even more interesting, so it'll be fun to break it down together.
We can't wait.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
All right, we'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hey everyone, this is Adam Ellenboss from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at all of the astrological transits for the week ahead, that is May 5th through the 11th. Really this week is a kind of segue into a powerful full moon that's taking place in Scorpio opposite Uranus a week from today. So the context of the transits this week, given that full moon, is going to be important. We'll take a look at that today, and I'll also do some coverage for the fixed signs with some horoscopes at the end. The fixed signs will, of course, be getting that full moon a week from today in one of the angular houses. So We'll take a little bit of time on that at the end. So that's our goal for today. Before we get into it, remember to like and subscribe. We know that a lot of people watch the channel regularly who are not yet subscribed. When you do that, it really does help us grow. We appreciate it. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on my website, which is nightlightastrology.com. Right now, we are in the midst of enrollment season for the upcoming first-year program, which is called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. It is our first year.
The magnetic field of Earth has a hole, and the hole is changing. It's not dangerous, at least NASA doesn't think it is, but it could affect satellites and other spacecraft. Is it an indication that Earth's magnetic field is about to flip? I found it. This week's spot of the magnetic field is called the South Atlantic Anomaly. As the name suggests, it's largely located over the South Atlantic Ocean, but also extends over parts of South America, including...
I think she supported vaccine discrimination, so we're not going to watch her video. Oh, I don't know if NASA, we can't watch this video. They're going to copyright it, brother. 496 views. Are we going to watch someone else? We're going to shout this channel out. Science in Focus. Shout out Science in Focus.
Welcome to our exploration of magnetic anomalies, fascinating variations in the
it's AI.
field that reveal much about our planet's inner workings. Simply put, magnetic anomalies are irregularities often caused by different geological
Maybe not.
formations.
Might be the guy.
Studying these anomalies is crucial as they provide insights into the Earth's structure and processes.
Wow, crazy. It's so interesting, Toad. Especially with all the megaliths in Peru. Like, bro, it's crazy.
From magnetic minerals to human activities and examine their profound impact on our planet. So, let's embark on this scientific journey to unlock the mysteries of magnetic anomalies. As we explore history, science, and the future, you'll gain a deeper appreciation of these remarkable Earth features. The journey to understanding magnetic anomalies began centuries ago when early explorers and scientists...
It's cool though. Thanks for fixing my mic. It's not redlining anymore.
Among the first was Christopher Columbus, who recorded unexplained compass deviations during his voyages. As more explorers sailed, similar reports intrigued the scientific community. Benjamin Franklin and Edmund Halley were notable figures who took an interest in these anomalies. Their initial theories, though sometimes flawed, laid the groundwork for future research. By the 19th century, advances in geophysics and technology allowed for more precise observations, marking a significant leap in our understanding. The contributions of these early scientists cannot be overstated as their curiosity sparked the beginning of this fascinating field. Magnetic anomalies originate from the depths of our planet, intertwining geological processes with the dynamics of the Earth's core. These anomalies offer
insane.
powerful and often invisible forces shaping our world.
Using what? Drywall? Stucco? Silicone?
Constant churn within the Earth's core, generating the magnetic signatures we detect on the surface. Imagine massive tectonic plates slowly colliding and drifting apart, creating fault lines and volcanic activity that
Alright, this guy's 18,000 views. Watch this guy's video. Stefan Burns.
Stefan Burns here. Today we're going to dive into the realm of magnetic anomalies. Now there are a bunch of very interesting magnetic anomalies found across our planet. We'll discuss many of these.
Expanding foam. Oh wow, insane. That's huge gaps.
For example, magnetic anomalies can be created from impact events. From small
That's expensive
to
stuff,
large.
man.
They
That's not
also
cheap, that
integrated
foam.
from extensive volcanism, and they may even provide us a way
If I remember
to
correctly.
find ancient or lost civilizations. So, for example, we have the Bangui magnetic anomaly here, located in Central Africa. This is very potentially related to a massive impact that occurred back in the Precambrian more than 500 million years ago. We also have the Richat structure, which is located in a very notable magnetic anomaly. There is the South Atlantic anomaly, which we will discuss, a very interesting, potentially huge impact magnetic anomaly located in North America, and lots of overall magnetic anomalies distributed across North America, and much more. So we will discuss all of that, but we will start with what is a magnetic anomaly. Then we will look at the plasmasphere of our planet, which creates temporary magnetic anomalies during things like geomagnetic storms. And we'll discuss the South Atlantic anomaly before going into these near surface magnetic anomalies that are created from impact events, volcanism, and more. We'll begin with a quick overview of what are magnetic anomalies in the first place. So we have, for example, the radiation belts. Here they're charged. Here you can see that they're low, they're decharged, they have a low flux, and this will alter the magnetic field at the surface of the planet. Specifically at the South Atlantic anomaly, these radiation belts actually dip really deeply into the ionosphere to an altitude of about 200 kilometers. That weakens Earth's magnetic field. We'll discuss that more in depth in the next one. We also have the ring current, which flows.
God, I really hate this. I love this guy's video and the information, but I hate this like TikTok style of the guy standing in front of it. I can't do it. I don't need the finger, man. We love the video, bro. Follow this man. I love this guy. But like, why would he, like, he's standing right in front of, like, he's standing right in front of it. North Congo.
Very large wave, very and this died top and 2000, negative 2000 nanotesla at the bottom.
What is this, Quebec?
Very strong dipole where there's a
Manicouagan. That's Saint Jean. Wow. Crazy, man. Sorry to hear that, brother. Sounds like you're in a nice apartment building, too.
nearly six, but you can see the lake. So
That is Quebec,
you can actually see
I think.
really easily
Yeah.
on Google Earth. There's a lake. So in this area of the planet, like right there, the magnetic field is heavily
It's north of Saint Jean,
easily on Google Earth. There's a lake. So
I
in
think.
this area, you can actually see this really easily on Google Earth.
There's some cool stuff up
So
there.
in this area of the planet, like right there, the magnetic field is heavily distorted by this impact anomaly. So this is altering Earth's normal magnetic field heavily right at the center of the
That's crazy. That is like,
smaller. Here we see that the nanotesla
that's
scale
crazy.
is in the hundreds range for this impact. This is a smaller impact there.
There's a lot of leeches and hornets and flies,
And
black
then for,
flies.
this impact here, we see it's a
There's a lot of
pretty
leeches
large,
in those
scale
random Quebec
2
lakes.
seconds ago that
It's
melt
fucked.
something. That is
Northern Quebec
very,
is
very
fucked.
old. It's been more than 100
I stepped on a hornet's nest in northern Quebec,
so maybe this is
up near this area,
but
and my legs swelled up. I got stung like, I think 8 times, and my legs like double the size. I needed crutches. It's fucked. It was a hornet's nest on the ground. It was just fucked, man. Northern Quebec really like fucks you up, and there's leeches in the lakes. You swim and you can, well, there's like leeches like on you, like sucking your blood. I went to a fucking basic camp for air cadets. Blue collar guys do the bare ass minimum, yeah.
first let's look at the
I can believe it.
on the surface of cratons, based on the satellite. So this is a impact anomaly. It is the largest by far. I mean, the Bangi is really large, but this is huge. You see these four states
Four
here,
corners, really?
quite notable. And
Bro,
also
Four Corners is
about this is that
amazing. There's a
this
magnetic anomaly
impact
there.
anomaly, potential impact anomaly,
That's
what
where the Colorado River, that's where the Grand Canyon is. That's where the Monument Valley is. Four Corners is amazing. Four Corners is like so spectacular. Of these 4 states. That's cool.
that often report
Well, I mean, I guess you could say a good thing about anywhere.
Arizona, there's Sedona. A lot of people think it's pretty nicely and anomaly, which means that it's buried at least 1 to 3 miles
Sudbury.
down, so it may be difficult to mine. But a
Tomogamy.
lot of people are now starting to look into this because this could be a very, very rich mineral deposit. 12 miles wide, 36 miles long.
Yeah, man.
And
They want to mine the
it's
shit out of
anomaly,
this.
found by magnetic from normal.
That's crazy.
Magnetic field with remnant. We have a surface magnetic field. Another you can connect.
I know Sudbury very well.
That's one of the highest.
The end of Europe is coming. 600,000 views. Holy shit. This is such a fucking, like, bullshit video. What are the comments? I'm not hating, I'm not making fun of anyone's videos. I'm not. But, like, what are they even talking about? Like, what are they talking about? Like, this is a measurable thing. Oh, they just say is coming. Okay, they didn't measure it. Like, these are all just bullshit, though. $21 million views. People just love seeing the raw shit. They don't like to see any bullshit. Alright. Anton! We're watching it. Sorry, Anton. This is Aviathex, baby. Aviathex is connecting with us. He's telling us to watch Anton on the Sumerians.
This right here is what's known as a clay tablet. A pictograph that was used to record a lot of different things thousands of years ago. And though this one might look mysterious, apparently this is a receipt for beer. A lot of beer. So yeah, this is some beer tab. Or I guess more realistically, this was most likely a part of a large trade when someone purchased a large amount of
Poor
beer.
European
So this
country.
unique pottery technique used in
What,
many
Quebec?
locations in the Middle East to record all sorts of stuff. Anything from various stories and legends to historical writings about various kings to, of course, various receipts produced during trade. And quite a lot of these have been discovered over the years, with many, though translated, still missing the date for when they were produced or for when exactly all this happened. But in this recent study that we're going to
Yeah, it
discuss
sounds pretty. Dude, Quebec is friggin'. Dude, their roads are in really bad shape too. They don't take care of their people, man. I think they're completely compromised. It's a cabal, man. Ontario is getting there with Ford, but with what's his name? Leduc or whatever his name is? I don't even know if it's like Leduc, Ledouche. It's fucking Quebec, man.
And I guess let's briefly discuss the tablets because this is where the mystery
But it's all just, it's a cabal,
are
man.
not organic, so they don't actually contain any carbon. And that means that we cannot carbon date them, discovering their age. However, they're often mixed with a lot of other stuff, including various iron oxides, that as we know from a lot of other studies, very often are affected by the magnetic field of planet Earth. As a matter of fact, we know that iron oxides, or magnetite, very often leaves behind a very specific fingerprint of Earth's magnetosphere. And so at least in theory, this is something we could detect inside these clay artifacts as well. But I guess the question here is, how could this be possible, especially if we assume that the magnetic field was relatively similar in strength to 1,000 years? Well, it's a nice assumption. Turns out, not correct. And here, I'm going to go on a bit of a sidetrack and talk about another anomaly that's currently studied by scientists. Well, let's start with the modern magnetic anomaly. The most powerful today is known as the South Atlantic anomaly. We don't really feel it on planet Earth, but satellites and even sometimes airplanes definitely do. In this
Oh, nice, brother. Can I pull it up on stream?
over a period of
I'm gonna pull it up on stream. You pasted it in chat. Is therefore.
the size and atomic strength, basically resulting in a kind
Are you
of
punching a
magnetic
tree?
field right above South America. In the past, it's already been known to produce various glitches inside satellites, because here the magnetic field is
Are you
actually
punching a tree, brother?
from extremely powerful charged particles.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I
from
can't
a lot of
see.
different regions. And according to modern studies, it seems to be moving in the northwest direction, and potentially is splitting into two parts. Although intriguingly, it was discovered to potentially have existed sometime
Are you
in the
punching a
past
piece of wood?
as far back as 11
Remember to use
million years ago.
wraps, or else you'll have hobbit
Is
hands.
currently unknown. One of the explanations use these unusual chunks inside our planet that we discussed previously.
Holy crap, man! You're punching a tree. That's crazy.
But we know that there are two such chunks, and the other side of the planet doesn't have anything similar.
It's like
So the
Rambo
explanation
style.
here is sort of unsatisfactory.
Yo,
But
what?
this is that anomaly,
Yo,
magnetic
thank you. Turn the sound. What's up, Prolix? Thanks, brother.
potentially either weaken
Thanks,
or
brother.
strengthen the magnetic field, or at least sometime, at least in some regions.
Thanks, man.
And
We'll do the
just so happens
preflex.
that in 2009,
This is before we lifted.
artifacts from
Thanks, brother. We did the preflex lift. Thanks, Krolix. How are you, man?
discovered signs of a very large spike in magnetic field in 72 different samples. And here the magnetic field must have strengthened by at least 3 times. Definitely affecting the Middle Eastern regions, but also potentially a lot of other regions on the planet as well.
Thanks, brother. Yo, we're going for
It's not entirely clear,
any new followers or viewers. We're going for
but it does suggest that the
300 weightlifting streams before I'm 40 years
Just
old.
like in the South Atlantic anomaly, here we had signs of another anomaly that might have been
Sorry, brother. I'll turn the sound on now. Thank you for helping me with the mic.
tablets might have noticed. Specifically various
You really saved me with the mic.
created around the
I love
same time
Anton.
and did contain magnetite
Yeah,
or iron
thanks, man.
oxide
Follow.
inside. And so in this
I'm
video,
trying not to steal other people's
scientists decided
content.
to focus
Because now
specifically on
Twitch,
that.
thanks, man. I
Trying
haven't
to
reached it
identify
yet,
as many of these
Toady,
as
but
possible, discovering the strength of the magnetic
because
field in the
Twitch is
process,
forcing us to
and
upload all our
potentially
streams to YouTube now, also.
mostly focusing on the regions you see right here. The red
Oh,
circles
thanks,
represent
Krolix.
the sample
Yeah, I was Gyges,
in
Gyges
essence, conducting what you would call
before. That was my name before anyone confused. I was rebranded from Gyges.
Something that could potentially be super important for archaeology because pottery in general is basically one of the most common type of artifacts discovered.
I haven't balanced the
from various cultures.
this
And
one
not
yet.
surprisingly, they did discover quite a lot of variation depending on the age of the tablet.
Oh yeah,
And
Toad.
because a lot of these tablets also contain stamps from various
I
caves
cut
that were
shapes.
during this time, it became
That's
possible to
sick.
confirm the time
Sick
and
emote.
the magnetic spike. With this event referred to as Levantine
Sick.
Iron Age geomagnetic anomaly that most likely happened sometime between 1050 BC
Oh, this is I
and
cut shapes
550
emote.
BC. basically making it last for approximately 500 years. And interestingly, the signs of the sun anomaly are even detectable in artifacts from ancient China.
Cool.
Once again suggesting that whatever this was, it was extremely powerful and was most likely global, increasing the strength of the magnetosphere.
Sorry, I don't mean to dox you on stream. Sorry about the restream.
Here the scientists were able to date everything much more accurately, thus even producing the results showing how the field changed over time. In a nutshell, it would look something like this. Now this is a combination of this study and previous studies, but it essentially shows us the strength.
I don't know, man. If you follow me, I'll follow you. I don't understand your channel,
Zero AD, going all the way back to
which is why I haven't followed it yet, but if you follow me, I'll follow you. I follow every follower. I'm not, like, I'm just trying to learn about you.
Heated and cooled down objects in magnetic fields of various strength in order to then match
I just don't know anything about your channel, man.
inside the fabric. And more importantly, by now having this graph, future studies can use this to date these tablets even better.
I don't either, that's all good.
Fluid studies, this also presents us with a
With the sound on, oh yeah, Toad, sorry man, sorry. I'm sorry, how do I get rid of this? God, I'm such a terrible streamer.
Just a few decades, which was then followed by a dramatic drop a few decades after. And strangely enough,
Okay, thanks Anton. This is young Toady in chat, Real Return of the Dragon. How do I turn my Instagram sound on? Oh my god. Are you punching the PVC? I don't know, my dude. I don't know. It doesn't answer the question for me. It's sick. It's sick. I'm not saying it's not sick. This is the second time watching it. I'm saying, so you're punching the PVC that was bouncing against the tree? That's crazy, man.
this didn't just happen once, it seems to have happened several times. In this case, potentially at least
2x4s, you're punching wood.
At least 3 times more than the
Makes
average
sense. That makes sense.
And so in this case, this particular study is so important for a
With
lot
tape?
of definitely for
You taped your
archaeology,
hands?
especially involving anything made out of clay, but also for studies involving magnetosphere or solar studies that try to understand the interaction between Earth's magnetosphere and powerful emissions from the
So we
sun. At the moment,
didn't
it's
watch any of this
super
guy's
unclear.
video. I'm trying not to watch people's content on my channel. Unless it's like old. Or one month ago. 10 days ago. Four years ago, 79 million views. Veritasium. They're gonna flag me. 5 asteroids. Underworld. Okay, follow Underworld. Everyone, this is a necro roast video. Follow Underworld.
You know how dangerous our planet can be. Storms, volcanoes, tsunamis, earthquakes. The list of deadly things just doesn't seem to stop.
That's sick though, Toad.
If we were to take it up a notch,
That's like
we'd talk about
friggin-
things that exist outside of our planet. Cosmic forces that
That's
could wipe us
that's
out
like
At any given moment, there are millions of
Rocky
asteroids
style, man.
flying through our solar system, varying in size and shape. The vast majority of them
Oh,
are
yeah,
located
for
in the
sure.
asteroid belt located between Mars and Jupiter. But there are a number of them that are constantly orbiting the sun and crossing our planet's orbital path. We would like to tell you how many there are, but the truth is, nobody knows.
Alright, we're gonna start
As a matter
lifting
of
weights
fact,
because that's what we
it's
do.
estimated that there are hundreds
Thanks for
of
being here.
thousands of asteroids
Thanks, Alex, for the
crossing our
raid, brother.
path that we don't even know exist. For the ones that we do know, it paints a picture of what is exactly possible in our solar system. Here are 5 asteroids that scientists are worried about. One potentially dangerous asteroid that astronomers have their eye on is named 1990 MU. It is one of many asteroids that are known as Apollo-class asteroids. This means that they have an orbital path around the Sun that takes it through the orbital path of the Earth. In other words, there is a chance that one day in the future, it could cross our path at the wrong time and make contact with our planet, resulting in some pretty terrible things. Measuring just over 2 miles in diameter, 1990 MU is flying through space at a speed of about 23 kilometers per second and orbiting the Sun every 754 days. It has been classified as a potentially hazardous asteroid due to its predicted close passes with Earth. The scariest part of this asteroid is its enormous size. Based on its brightness and the way it reflects light, 1990 MU is estimated to be between 1.66 to 3.7 miles in diameter, making it larger than 99% of all asteroids. For comparison, this is roughly the size of the island of Manhattan. NASA and other scientific communities have tracked this asteroid for some time and feel confident that it poses very little. On the morning of September 1st, 2017, astronomers were able to bear witness to an incredibly awesome event. An asteroid named 3122 Florence flew past Earth at a distance of only 4.4 million miles. NASA stated that nothing of that size had ever passed that close to Earth since tracking began. Telescopes were able to pick up the asteroid with relative ease as it whizzed by Earth, only to be flung out into the reaches of space again. Why is this particular asteroid of concern, though? Well, just like 1990 MU, it is an Apollo-class asteroid, crossing over the orbital path of Earth. Also, it is an incredibly large asteroid, measuring roughly 2.7 miles wide. To date, only about 10 asteroids as big as Florence exist in near-Earth space. But, as we said before, we have a very light grasp on exactly how many dangerous objects exist in space that would pose a threat to Earth. During this particular encounter, there was never any chance of a huge space rock hitting our planet. Astronomers have even mapped out Florence's orbit for the future and know that, at least for the next few hundred years, there is no danger to anyone living on Earth. However, should something as large as Florence actually strike Earth, it would be very bad. Scientists regard any asteroid with a diameter of at least 0.6 miles across to be capable of ending civilization. For this entry, we have asteroid 999942, also known as Apophis. Now this is the perfect example of astronomers only knowing about a small fraction of the threats we face from outer space. Apophis was only discovered in the year 2004. At first, it didn't seem like much of a big deal because it only measures 1,000 feet across. However, as its speed and trajectory were further studied, a panic set in because it seemed as if there may be an impact from this asteroid in the year 2029. After searching through some older astronomical images and studies, scientists ruled out the possibility of an impact. Rather, it would make an incredibly close pass that year. This pass won't be measured in millions of miles or even hundreds of thousands of miles.
Feels better than
Rather,
like
it will pass by at around
turning my back like 90
19,600
degrees.
miles from the Earth's surface.
You'll see.
While that is a safe distance, it's close enough that it'll come between the Earth and the Moon. Even scarier is that at that distance, there are some spacecraft that orbit the Earth. That year, the asteroid will be visible to the naked eye. Apophis will pass over the southern hemisphere and will look like a speck of light moving from east to west across the night sky. After moving across Australia, it'll go over the Indian Ocean, cross the equator in Africa, and keep going over the Atlantic. Another potentially dangerous asteroid floating around in space is 1998 QS52, a medium-sized asteroid that is also classified as an Apollo-class asteroid. This stony asteroid has a very pronounced elliptical orbit around the Sun and travels at a pretty high speed as it comes closer. It was discovered on August 25, 1998 by astronomers of the Linear program at Lincoln Laboratory's experimental test site. But this discovery set off a number of alarms. You see, this asteroid is estimated to be between 2.5 and 5 miles in diameter, making it one of the largest asteroids ever discovered. To give you a bit of scale, this asteroid measures around the same size of the San Francisco Bay. Although it will be considered a close call when it passes by Earth in 2038, the reality is that it will be over 7 million miles away. Just as before, this is a very large distance when measured by humans. However, space is much different. 7 million miles is an incredibly short distance. Slight variations in its trajectory could spell disaster without a larger distance to act as a buffer. 16 to 32 feet across is definitely not a huge-size asteroid by any means. As a matter of fact, on a cosmic scale, it's barely worth mentioning. But that was the size of asteroid 2020 VT4. So how did an asteroid so small make this list? Well, that has to do with the fact that it was moving incredibly fast and was only discovered hours before it shot over our skies. That's right, one of the biggest threats to our planet is asteroids that travel towards us from the direction of the sun. While it is extremely uncommon, it does happen from time to time, leaving us with very little warning in case something has to go incredibly wrong. Now, there was another thing that made this asteroid incredibly dangerous. The distance that it missed our planet by was 400 miles. Never before has a near-Earth asteroid ever come that close. This was a big wake-up call for scientists. If this asteroid was able to get close without being seen, then another one could do the same thing. The only difference is that the next one could be much bigger and pose a much greater threat. Luckily for us, this wasn't one of those times, but the approach did have a big effect on the space rock. Because of how close it came to Earth, its elliptical path around the sun was changed quite a bit. Now, there will not be another encounter with 2020 VT4 until November of 2052. Space has no shortage of dangers to give us here on Earth. While we are constantly tracking the cosmos, looking for dangerous objects like asteroids and comets, we have to be on our guard for the unseen threats that seem to come out of nowhere. But as science progresses, so will our awareness and safety. Be sure to click the link on screen now to check out another one of our videos just like this one. With that, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to see more videos just like this.
Thanks, man. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Aw, thanks, man. So cool, man.
Apophis, the asteroid that could hit Earth in 2029. In the solar system, there are thousands of asteroids that orbit very close to the Earth. They are known as NEOs, near-Earth objects, and one in particular that some years ago raised concerns in the scientific community. The reason is that before the impact of Comet SL9 on Jupiter, humanity and even the scientific community had no interest in investigating the impacts of asteroids or comets on the planets. It was thought that it only happened once every few million years and that there was nothing to worry about. But this event changed everything. Now we know that these events are still happening in our solar system and that the Earth could meet the same fate at any moment. This caused great concern in the scientific community and in the U.S. government, which led to the funding of large projects to locate all objects that could pose a threat to the Earth. Thus, NASA and other organizations intensified their near-Earth object observing programs and set ambitious goals to identify and track the majority of NEOs in the solar system. This included the goal of identifying 90% of NEOs larger than 1 kilometer in diameter by 2008, ushering in an era of increased awareness and preparedness for impact risk mitigation, as well as funding for scientific research projects focused on NEOs and the construction of astronomical telescopes and observatories to search for asteroids and comets with orbits close to Earth. One such observatory was the Kitt Peak National Astronomical Observatory, abbreviated KPNO. It's located in the Arizona desert in the USA at 2,096 meters above sea level. This observatory would be the one that would discover the Apophis asteroid. Before moving on, be sure to like or dislike the video so that we can approve them for you, the viewer. Plus, don't forget to subscribe to our channel by making sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our daily videos. Apophis, the bringer of destruction. After the desperate race to find objects that could impact Earth began, many observatories worldwide joined the search. Objects with collision courses against the Earth were found from time to time. Still, once the corresponding calculations were made, they were immediately discarded as they did not represent a threat to our planet. However, that changed on June 19, 2004. That night, during a routine observation session, researchers Roy A. Tucker, David J. Tholen, and Fabrizio Bernardi detected a small bright spot in the telescope images. This was not something new. They had previously discovered asteroids using the same technique. To detect asteroids, all you have to do is take several images of the sky every second with the background of stars. And if at any time you notice a point similar to a star that moves much faster than the stars, you should stop, pay attention, and analyze what it is about. This is what the scientists did. They analyzed the images based on the signals of light intensity and trajectory of the object. Thanks to that, they could determine its size. But when performing orbital calculations to estimate its trajectory, they discovered something that left them frozen. This object's orbit, with a diameter of more than 300 meters, indicated that it would crash into Earth on April 13, 2029. While this asteroid wasn't as giant as the one that killed the dinosaurs, it was big enough to destroy an entire continent without a problem. The threat was real. The researchers couldn't believe the findings, so they did what any scientist would do: try to disprove their discovery. To do this, they sent the coordinates and images of the asteroid to all the available observatories. Of the same year, astronomer Gordon Garrad observed it again at the Observatory of Australia, and shortly after, it was seen from various observatories around the world. The asteroid Apophis was in everyone's sights, as it was the first object that had an actual
course, out of 4 years of curriculum in the study this week, is building from the moment of a first quarter moon that's just past us over the weekend into the full moon by the start of next week. That full moon is in Scorpio, it's opposite Uranus, it's a very powerful full moon. And so, in some ways, we can really read the transits of this week as the moon is in its waxing gibbous phase, as moving us into a powerful full moon. So, the transits of the week that we're going to look at, starting with the transit that is happening today, is going to be Mercury's sextile to Jupiter. That transit is perfecting today. Mercury's in the superior position, Jupiter's in Mercury's sign, so a pretty nice harmonious contact between these two planets starting the week off. When Mercury and Jupiter get together, you usually get a simple description of the combination of these two planets is the building of consensus, the building of agreement, the developing of terms within a contract that lead to both parties signing, the negotiation that leads to an accord or a treaty. Mercury and Jupiter are like coming to terms on the deal of a used car with someone you're negotiating with. Mercury and Jupiter are when the analytical parts and the breaking of things into components and discussion and debate or argumentation are coming together with Jupiter, who tends to build cohesion and a sense of togetherness or unity. So a sextile between these two planets, especially when Jupiter is in Mercury's sign, that means that Jupiter has what's called reception with Mercury, is pretty favorable. It's a nice combination for when you're learning something, for example, to feel as though you are starting to understand how different parts or facets of a craft or an art form all work together cohesively. Or you're, for example, when you study astrology, you're starting to put aspects and houses and signs and dignities all together to form a coherent delineation. It's kind of like the parts are all coming together. Another way of putting it would be when you learn a musical scale and then suddenly you find the fluency to travel around it rather loosely or freely and innovate or improvise. Mercury and Jupiter can also be about confidence, mentally, intellectually, verbally. It can be about nice or helpful uses of technology or communication. And it can also be about inventiveness, discovery, and mental excitement. So when we get excited about new ideas, Mercury and Jupiter together in a sextile makes sense. When Mercury and Jupiter come together in a sextile, they're so smoothly connected that sometimes we may get out over our skis and be overly confident or say too much or put our foot in our mouth or become overly confident or cocky or arrogant mentally, verbally, intellectually. We can kind of overpromise and underdeliver. So some of those inflation tendencies when you combine the two together are there, but frankly, I think that this is a really nice combination where you're more likely to see some really constructive, harmonizing features today especially, but you might have felt those things building over the weekend, May 4th, May 3rd, up till today, May 5th. We're going to give this a couple of days to separate, and you'll be experiencing this really all the way through, let's see here, give it about 3 degrees of separation, about through Wednesday. But today is the peak of the exchange between the two planets, so watch for that. You could study the whole sign houses of Aries and Gemini in your chart if you wanted more topical specificity. Now, as we move forward in the week, tomorrow is really the other main transit of the week. The 2 in the early week, the week is quiet as it goes on. Well, of course, we're building into this full moon, so I'll say more about that. But tomorrow, Venus has a nice little sextile to Pluto. The early part of this week is nice to see some of these harmonizing aspects coming through. We'll take that after, a number of transits in recent times have been pretty intense. Mars opposite Pluto and so forth. So Venus in Aries catching a little sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. That transit is happening tomorrow. We'll have more coverage on that tomorrow. But I think for this one, again, we think about harmonization between the two planets. I don't think of outer planets having inferior or superior positioning within aspects, because they just don't seem to behave within the parameters of the ancient aspectual theory in that respect. But what I can say is that anytime Venus and Pluto are harmonizing through a sextile, sextiles being the nature of Venus, you get some really nice things. For example, the discovery of hidden, deep, meaningful, rich, fertile, creative energies within sexual dynamics or relationships. Oh, wow, we just went to another level in our intimacy. Oh, wow, we just discovered some fruitful, unconscious material in our friendship or relationship that may be conducive to us cooperating at deeper levels, or getting along at deeper levels, or being creative together in new ways. So the kind of unconscious excavation of Venus Pluto that can be painful and intense and deep, and where we confront shadows around Venus, a little bit easier, a little bit more fluid. I like this for just nicely and easily making adjustments with respect to things like your appetite or your diet, or how much you take in, or how you moderate or work with the pleasure principle in your life. If Pluto is going to expose you to some of the shadows relative to how you experience pleasure, oh, I don't experience it enough, or I tend to go too far. In either way, the contact with Pluto that Venus is making through a sextile is likely to be a lot easier. So when you learn something or see something that helps you modulate pleasure, it's an easier experience to be in receipt of. It's like not going to knock you over the head or completely knock you down in the way that a square might, or an opposition might. I like that because it's not that it becomes any less Plutonian, it's that the way that it comes through is easier to gel with or flow with. I think about it like those kind of moments where you find yourself more easily able to adapt or make healthier, positive changes. It's like, oh, I see something that needs to change. I'm seeing a shadow, but I'm seeing it in a way that's like light and not super confrontational. And so it becomes just a little easier to adapt and work with. Venus's sextile to Pluto can also just tap us into darker, more erotic, subterranean themes around things like art, love, friendship. The topics that come up can just be a little bit more Plutonian. This is a Venus in Aries just coming off from the conjunction with Neptune, so it has a little bit of like a space warrior goddess feeling to it. There's just like a little it's like a sci-fi Venus warrior goddess connecting with Pluto in the sign of Aquarius. So what innovations does Venus bring to the table right now, mentally, intellectually, ideologically, as well as being her embodied self as the goddess? That may be an interesting way of looking at it. There are ideas, paradigms, thoughts, technologies, next or otherworldly spaceships that Venus is thinking about building or flying in. So anyway, I'm having fun with that. Well, those are the first two transits of the week that are sort of bigger and more impressive. If we move on to May 10th, that is Saturday, and that's really the next transit of the week, where Mercury enters Taurus. Now, this is where we start to see the first of a number of transits through the sign of Taurus that will be very dynamic and very Uranian. Eventually, as we can see here, the sun is going to catch Uranus in a conjunction. The full moon is going to aspect Uranus by opposition from Scorpio. And Mercury will eventually go through that conjunction with Uranus as well. So there's the second, like the middle to late part of May becomes highly Uranian, coming off from this full moon. So in a way, this week is kind of just sort of gradual, not a lot happening in terms of big dynamic transits. But then toward the end of the week, we start to get this energy of Uranus. The reason that it starts to appear as soon as Mercury enters Taurus is that for ancient astrologers, anytime a planet is in the same temple as another planet, it starts to infuse itself with the energies or archetypes of the other planets in the temple. So in other words, as soon as Mercury enters the sign of Taurus, it gets solar and it gets Uranian. We get a Mercury that has a lot in common with Uranus in terms of being inventive and a little bit more mental, intellectual, technological. and shifty and surprising. Mercury is that, Uranus is that. So we start to get this Uranian vibe coming through by virtue of Mercury entering the same temple that Uranus is in. That starts happening Saturday. Not surprisingly, on Saturday, the moon will enter Scorpio. Now, as soon as the moon enters Scorpio, which by my count is about 4 p.m. Central Time on May 10th, that's Saturday, then immediately we start to see the building of this Uranian energy. So, what is Uranus doing? Uranus is about breakthroughs and revolutions, and those breakthroughs, revolutions, surprises, plot twists that are kind of sudden and unexpected. It's unexpected that can be disruptive, or that can kind of shift the narrative suddenly and in dramatic and interesting ways that feel like a revolution of circumstance. Those things are happening as the full moon comes through by next Monday. So you're going to start feeling that on Saturday as soon as Mercury enters Uranus's sign and the moon opposes Mercury as it enters Scorpio and starts building into the full moon opposition with Uranus and the sun. So we can see that opposition coming through. Of course, we'll spend time with this next week at the beginning of the week. I may even spend time on Monday just looking at the full moon as opposed to doing a weekly overview. Sometimes when transits land on the Monday of a week, it's better to do it that way. Anyhow, you can see right here that the full moon in Scorpio at 22 degrees is just 4 degrees off from the opposition to Uranus. So this is a full moon that is very charged up. It's a full moon in its fall in Mars's sign, opposite Uranus. Very disruptive energy coming through starting next week. Not surprisingly, by the end of next week, we get the sun conjoining Uranus. We get things like Mercury hitting Mars. So a little bit of a calm before the storm this week in terms of where the energy of this lunar cycle is heading and how dynamic and Uranian everything starts to get, trickling in on Saturday of this week, May 10th. And then by the 12th, Monday, it's much more dynamic and much more Uranian in terms of those sudden, unexpected twists or turns of plot, but also the innovative energy, the inventive energy, the let's create a breakthrough kind of scenario that a full moon opposite Uranus implies. I would anticipate that next Monday's full moon, this is on, of course, this is on May 12th. Let me just put that up so you remember it. Will be about different kinds of significant emotional breakthroughs. And also, it's interesting to note that as that full moon is coming through, we get the Venus-Mars tension amplified by Mercury, the Sun, and Uranus all in Venus' sign of Taurus, while the full moon is in its fall in Mars' sign. And hey, look, we have Venus starting to enter into a trine with Mars. So the masculine and feminine features of the full moon, as well as the trine between Venus and Mars, suggest that there's an opportunity to be harmonizing things that appear maybe initially as somewhat chaotic or disruptive or fast and revolutionary, but there's enough backing here to suggest that things are going to be capable of harmonization along the way. So I like the resources that are sort of available in the sky next week for a lot of Uranian activity, but the potential for harmonization alongside of it. I'll be saying more about that as things go on, but yeah, everything this week is pretty quiet, building up toward this full moon moment a week from now. So with that in mind, what I want to do is I'm gonna put the fixed signs up.
Hello, everybody. This is Gerald Salenti, and it's Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. And with the crazy people running the world, we're lucky to be alive. Hello there, Judge. How are you?
Lucky to be alive, Gerald. Nicely put, my friend.
Yeah. Now we have with us Judge Andrew Napolitano, a man, when it comes to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that's not allowed anymore. There's no one that knows the facts about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, writes about them, fights about them, and Judge Andrew Napolitano. And Judge, you have an article coming out. Again, it's week after week you do this. Holes in the Constitution. What Constitution? Holes in it? What did they ask Trump on NBC that if he has to abide by the Constitution, what did he say?
I don't know. Arguably, the most curious and terrifying statement ever made by an American president in public in the modern era. He just took an oath. He's taken this oath twice to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. And he says, I don't know. I'll have to check with my lawyers. I can't even imagine what his political game is by trying to make a statement like that. He's obliged to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution as the Supreme Court interprets it, not as he wants it to be.
Well, what he said, I'm not a lawyer, got my lawyers after. What are you talking about? What kind of crap is that? Do I have to abide? You have to ask your lawyer if you have to abide by the Constitution? It's his attitude of cover the trends journalistry.
Well, I was just thinking the same thing. That cover manifests Trump's attitude. Nothing is above or below ridicule, and he will do anything to advance the perception of him as an all-powerful individual.
Yep. So this article you have, again, it goes beyond Trump. It goes beyond what they've been doing to us all along. And here's the first line. Among the lesser-known holes in the Constitution cut by the Patriot Act of 2001 was the destruction of the wall between federal law enforcement and federal spies. The wall was erected in the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978. So before you go into this, the word Patriot Act, Orwell could not have come up with a better name.
Correct. It's actually an acronym, and I don't remember what each individual letter is the first letter of what word is, something protecting and advancing or some nonsense, but it's the most unpatriotic piece of legislation ever enacted by the Congress since they enacted the Alien and Sedition Acts in 1798, which made it a crime to criticize the government. That's the last time we had legislation this violative of the Constitution. The Patriot Act allows one FBI agent to authorize another FBI agent to conduct a search, even though the Fourth Amendment says only judges can authorize searches, and they must be on the basis of probable cause of crime presented to the judge under oath, and the instrument of authorization, the warrant, must specifically describe the place to be searched or the person or thing to be seized. I'm quoting from the Fourth Amendment directly. The Patriot Act purports to do away with all that. Before the Patriot Act, if there was a wall, I'll tell you what I mean by that, between intelligence community and law enforcement. So if intelligence is spying, lawful or unlawful, and it comes across evidence of crimes, with the wall, it can't tell the law enforcement community because they can't use evidence that was obtained unlawfully in court. After the Patriot Act under George Bush and Dick Cheney, and with no debate in the House of Representatives whatsoever, the wall came tumbling down, and the intelligence community was required to share what it found with law enforcement. Fast forward to today, and the FBI fully admits when it can't get a search warrant because it doesn't have probable cause of crime, it simply goes to its cousins in the CIA, the NSA, the DIA, whatever you want. There's 17 of them, and asks them to do the spying, and then that's how the FBI gets their evidence, unlawfully, unconstitutionally, but regularly, consistently, systematically, and admitted in a 906-page report, which is what provoked me to write this piece.
Again, you think the FBI, what have they accomplished? What are some of their great victories?
Well, in my view, they're totally unconstitutional. It's a federal plainclothed police force, which is not authorized by the Constitution at all. What did they accomplish? They became an instrument to keep J. Edgar Hoover in power for 50 years by spying on and blackmailing those who could remove him from power. I'm sure they solved some bank robberies in the old days, but today they will claim they keep us safe. How do they keep us safe? They concoct a crime. They make up a crime. They swoop in the last minute and stop the crime from happening, and then say, look how we kept you safe. So that powder that guy was going to ignite, that he thought was explosive, it's talcum powder. They were no more close to a crime than you are close to the moon. But that's what the FBI will claim, and the public buys this nonsense.
Yeah. And again, brought to you by a piece of scum that gave us World War II, right? Franklin Roosevelt.
Yes.
FDR, yep. And again, you know, it's one after another. NSA, Homeland Security. What a bunch of waste of money. They don't, Homeland Security. That's another one that was invented with the Patriot Act. There was no Homeland Security before 9/11.
That's a George Bush concoction. There are about 8,000 FBI agents. There are 160,000 NSA agents who wear khaki pants and black shirts, just like Benito Mussolini's crew did after World War I. And when they arrest you, they don't show badges or guns, they wear masks. This is America. This is Donald Trump's America.
Well, one after another, you know. Yeah, you write this. This is general warrants do not specify what was to be searched or seized. Rather, they authorize the bearers to search wherever they wish and seize whatever they found. Stated differently, to engage in fishing expeditions. I mentioned this is part of your article because look what they did to Scott Ritter.
Yes. Yes. I haven't seen the evidentiary basis for their raid on Ritter's house, and I haven't seen what they used to steal his passport from him. But they did in public steal his passport, force him to surrender it. There wasn't any violence. He saw that they were armed. They were actually ex-Marines, and he was joking with them, but they were there to harm him by taking away his passport. And then, of course, they raided his house and seized property that belonged to his wife and children, as well as his own. I have not seen what affidavit was presented to a judge to get the judge to sign a warrant. I don't even know if there was a warrant for that kind of a raid. There's supposed to be. Have they prosecuted him? Thanks be to God, no. Have they returned what they have seized from him? The last time I asked Scott about this, which was just a few weeks ago, the answer is no.
And how many showed up in the whole big deal, right?
Oh, they had 40 FBI agents raiding his house. They had a bomb squad and a SWAT team.
Yeah. What kind of men What kind of men could stoop so low? How rotten can you be? Little power-hungry freaks.
They did the same thing to Roger Stone. In Stone's case, they also sent a boat, because Stone lived on a canal, and a helicopter. Oh, and in Stone's case, they also brought a CNN camera crew at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I wrote a piece about that called An American Nightmare. Horrific how they want to. Stone and Ritter are similar personalities and can't be intimidated, but this would terrify almost anybody. 40 people showing up with automatic weapons, a helicopter, a boat, a bomb squad. I mean, this is just beyond any kind of American values.
And that's how the country is going down. It's right in front of everybody's eyes.
Right.
You go on to write over here, when Congress learned of Nixon's excesses, it enacted FISA, which required that all domestic spying be authorized by the new secret FISA court. Congress then lowered the probable cause of crime standard for the FISA court to probable cause of being a foreign agent, and it permitted FISA court to issue general warrants. How can Congress, which is itself a creature of the Constitution, change standards established by the Constitution? It cannot legally or constitutionally do so, but it did so nevertheless, is what you write. And you know why they did so nevertheless? Because they do what they want to do. Don't you know who I am? I'm a politician in the system. I'll tell you what to do. You're just a piece of crap.
The member of Congress who represents the district just south of where you are in New York State, I'm sure you know the name Mike Lawler, just introduced legislation to make it a crime if you have a choice between buying a product made in Israel and a product made elsewhere, and you choose the elsewhere. The Republicans pulled this legislation from the floor because they didn't have enough votes to pass it. So you talk about members of Congress violating the Constitution. They obviously violated the Constitution with the FISA law. They violated the Constitution with the Patriot Act. They violate the Constitution on a daily basis whenever they interfere with our free choices, like your free choices to purchase a product, your right to say what you want. You know, the original Patriot Act, which allowed one FBI agent to sign off on a warrant for another. They called them national security letters, but it was an agent-generated warrant. Made it a crime for you to tell anyone that you received the warrant. You couldn't tell your spouse in the bedroom, a priest in confessional. You couldn't tell your lawyer in his or her office. You couldn't even tell a federal judge in a court until 5 federal judges found that unconstitutional, and the Congress finally removed the "thou shalt not tell" from the Patriot Act. So what do we do? When the FBI comes calling with an agent-written search warrant, you can now tell somebody that you got one.
Wow.
That's how bad things are. From time to time, I feel the need to remind people of this, that what provoked me to write this column, a lot of it is history. What provoked me is that it's going on now. And Donald Trump, who was personally victimized by all this spying in 2015 and 2016, hasn't changed anything. He could change this with a phone call, and he hasn't.
Yeah. You know, Judge, there's so much going on. You know, this war now ramping up between India and Pakistan. The Israelis and the Yemenis going at it. Israel bombed a lot of the airport in Yemen,
Yes.
and other areas. And they came out yesterday, and there's an article I just had it here. Here we go. This is from The Guardian. An Israeli government minister has vowed that, quote, Gaza will be entirely destroyed, end quote, as a result of the Israeli military victory, and that its Palestinian population will, quote, leave in great numbers to third countries. The declaration on Tuesday, today's Wednesday, by the finance minister Smotrich came a day after, you ready for this? Israel's security cabinet approved a plan for Operation Gideon's Chariots, which an Israeli official said would entail, quote, the conquest of the Gaza Strip and the holding of the territories.
Oh, they forgot one sentence. Approved and financed by the American taxpayer.
And if you come out against this genocide by definition, you're attacked in America by the government.
Yes.
You're silenced. And they'll probably throw you out of the country if they can. This is disgusting what's going on in front of everybody's eyes. They're cutting off, they're slaughtering these people every day. I got to write about this stuff. 40, 60, 80, day after day, day after day after day after day in the Gaza Strip, bombing the hell out of the areas of the West Bank, stealing more land, and Israel bombing now. They're ramping up the war with Yemen. Bombs away in Syria, bombs away in Lebanon, and now is it going to be war against Iran? Because this thing is really going, it's in front of everybody's eyes. Where is the outrage? Could you imagine if what I just read to you was written by an Arab and there were Jewish people living in this territory?
Oh boy. Well, listen, the Israeli government and its American allies have captured the American government. Our mutual friend, whom you and I admire deeply, who's on my podcast at 3 o'clock this afternoon Eastern, Phil Giraldi, is the country's foremost authority on this. And his latest piece on the United States of Israel is actually captivating and terrifying. Captivating and terrifying. He opines that Trump is afraid to tell Netanyahu to go fly a kite, that he can't stand him, that he will visit indignities on him, like when Trump announced yesterday that the Houthis had capitulated. Nonsense. But he did announce that we have capitulated, that we have stopped bombing. Thanks be to God. He didn't tell Netanyahu first, and Netanyahu apparently was, completely flummoxed that he learned about this by watching it on CNN. So Trump will do things like that because he can't stand the Israeli prime minister. But he'll still give him the billions in military equipment to slaughter innocents that he requests, because that is a spigot Trump is afraid, according to Phil, to turn off.
Well, again, look at the money he got from Adelson's, hundreds of millions of dollars. Moved the embassy from Jerusalem from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Told Israel, that land you stole from the Syrians and the Golan Heights, it's yours.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think Trump will stop the Yemen war. I think he'll keep going with it.
Oh, I think you're right. Oh, and our friend Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel, announced yesterday no more communication with Hamas or the PLO, with the American embassy. We don't even care what you have to say. Take your complaints elsewhere. Mike is a Christian nationalist who is deeply devoted to the cause of slaughtering Palestinians. This will really get under your skin, Gerald, particularly because of the front cover of the Journal for this week. Mike is also a Protestant minister.
I know.
A Protestant Christian minister now doing everything he can to facilitate the slaughter of innocents.
What a
The
bunch of
hundreds of
crap.
babies without arms and legs doesn't seem to affect this Protestant minister.
Oh, what was his daughter was the mouthpiece for Trump for a while, wasn't it? When he left.
Right, she's now the governor of Arkansas.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? You look at these clowns. Look at these clowns. Oh, I'm a minister. You're a piece of scum. What Christ do you believe in? Hey, oh, you're an expert at all this stuff. How about thou shalt not kill, fat face? Huckleberry. How about this one? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Oh, what's the matter, Huckleberry? That's in your Bible. What a bunch of phonies. Throwing this religious crap out. Shove it. You have nothing to do with the Christ that you say you believe in. It's
Sorry to
total
say,
hypocrisy.
I'm sorry to say that I agree with you. Unfortunately, there are millions who follow this nonsense. Millions. These are the people that elected Trump. These are the people that applaud what he does. These are the people that run the Congress. These are the people that look the other way when babies are blown up. When anybody is blown up.
Yeah, again, and it's not only this Huckleberry. Where the hell are all the religions during Easter time? You know, about peace. Not a word. Not a word. No, it's a farce. There's no. What's happened to the religions is just like what happened to the Constitution. It has nothing to do with what they say they believe in. It's been destroyed, just like they destroyed the Constitution. Judge, thank you so much for being on. Everybody that you want to see things and hear things, again, like today, you're going to have Phil Giraldi on, a real man, former top CIA cat that went in.
Okay, everybody, here we go. It's me. It's me, of course. With all of you, thanks for being here, everybody. Lava's here. Everybody, if you haven't subscribed to Lava, please do so. She's way better, way smarter than I am. Anyway, guys, listen, we have so much to talk about today. I want to show you a few things. I want to break some stuff down for you, with you. Again, I am not here to change anybody's mind about a damn thing. I just want to bring you guys up to speed about what's happening. And it's kind of interesting. It really, really is. Especially today was an outlier in many ways. Again, we apparently got this deal. It's the most greatest deal in history between the United States and the UK. It's a nothing burger, and the market barely coughed at it. Even after President Trump said, buy stocks now. Okay. The market did finish higher. I mean, look at this. We couldn't even get a 1% gain out of the Dow. We couldn't even get a 1% gain out of the S&P 500. Okay, the Nasdaq just over 1%. Look at these numbers here. History was made today. Okay, history was made. The market doesn't smell it, even though President Trump said, literally, buy stocks now. He said it today. As a matter of fact, this move in the market was less than when, what's his name? Freaking Licknut. Whatever his name is. When Licknut, a week and a half ago, said, I have a deal, done. He was floated out just to boost up the stock market. There was no deal. We never found out about a deal. We weren't told where the deal was, what nation it was with, nothing, zero. And I'll tell you something else. Apparently, President Trump reached a truce with the Houthis. Even that wasn't enough to boost the stock market. I mean, there's something else going on here, man. I'm going to show you a chart We're going to talk about a few things. The 10-year yield, a lot of that selling today. Again, this movement this is clearly illiquidity. Ex-lava. Clearly illiquidity in this market. When you've got this kind of movement, look at this. Look at the 10-year yield from today. Wham! This is 11 basis points. Up and down and up. It doesn't know where it wants to go. This is stability. And you understand, the debt market is supposed to be rock solid. It's supposed to be rock solid. With this yo-yo movement up and down every other day, 10, 15, 20 basis points is insanity. And it tells us that we have a very, very, very big problem. So anyway, let's so with the markets, all right, look, it's kind of complex to put this together here, but again, we got this a magnificent deal today. It was people, look, man, you guys and girls, I urge you to always do your own research. This was the deal that isn't, and the market knows it. Okay, investors know it. You know it. Greatest deal ever. Every deal is the greatest deal ever, but it just isn't true. Okay, so we get that, and then we get President Trump. I mean, look at this. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. President Trump. Buy stocks now. Buy stocks now. I mean, first of all, we've never heard this before, other than, I don't know whenever, probably never. Buy it now. Let's sit on the market for a second. I know there's a lot of very, very smart people here. This is a chart of the S&P 500 going back a year. This is April, okay? This is where we are now. I want one of you to tell me, what is that? What do you see here? What is forming there? Well, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. Pretty close. Okay, could be. I see a rising wedge here. Bear flag. Okay, that too. Which means we could drop off here like a freaking rock. Now let's talk about something else that happened today or did not happen today. Okay, for you chartists here. Okay, this is so in your face. It's all in our face, people. The truth is hidden in plain sight. So, what happened today? A historic trade deal. That's not Greg Manarino. This is our beautiful, illustrious President of the United States. An epic man. It's historic. Okay, we get that. We get the man himself coming out saying, buy stocks now. Where's the volume? Where's the volume? First of all, honestly, where did I put that? This is nothing. This market barely moved. Not even 1% on the Dow. Not even 1% on the S&P 500. Okay, 1% on the Nasdaq, which is, anyway, we could go on and on about the Nasdaq alone. But that wasn't enough to have look at these volume spikes. You see that? Nothing. We got nothing here. Do you guys see what I'm talking about? Or is Greg completely nuts? And President Trump, he walks on water, and we should all be rushing out to buy stocks now. Would you be buying stocks with this? My technical traders out here, and I know there's a bunch of you, with a bear flag screaming rising wedge, okay? With no volume on the back of a historic trade deal, the deal that wasn't or isn't, okay? On the back of buy stocks now. No volume. Okay, I'll give you that the RSI, we're in positive territory. That's good. I'll give you that the MACD, okay, I would say neutral, bullish on the MACD. Wouldn't you agree? Those of you that are chartists here. But this is screaming in our face that something is wrong. Volume is screaming in our face that something's wrong. Unless I am missing something, and I am willing to accept that, okay? I only did this for, I don't know, 15 years, longer than that now. I'm an old guy. What am I getting wrong? What am I missing here? Okay. So what I'm telling you guys and girls is this. When you get a reaction like this in the stock market, when you get an 11 basis point move in the 10-year yield, and then you get an almost knee-jerk reaction into the dollar, look at the dollar strength today. This is pretty profound. We are solidly above 100. I still don't think it's going to last. I don't think so. But okay, maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe we are not going to get a weaker dollar. President Trump is screaming from rooftops that we need a weaker dollar. It's back. We need a weaker dollar. Again, you know why President Trump is saying we need a weaker dollar? He doesn't even try to hide it. And I'm not saying, for those of you that cannot stand anything negative about President Trump, this is what he said today. Trump says a rate cut would be like jet fuel for the markets. He's 100% right. What happens here when a central bank, when a president working with the central bank gets in here to artificially suppress rates, it opens up a doorway for cash to make it